Welcome, and let yourself settle in. Find a comfortable position and allow your breathing to slow and deepen. Tonight, we're going on a gentle journey through the psychology of saving, exploring the quiet wisdom of how our minds relate to money, and discover along the way that saving is not about numbers on a screen, but about something deeper, something more human. Let's begin. Let's begin with a simple truth, one that might surprise you. Money is emotional, not logical. When we think about saving, about earning, about spending, we imagine ourselves as rational creatures making calculated decisions. But the truth is far more beautiful and far more forgiving. Your brain doesn't experience money as mathematics. It experiences money as feeling, as story, as connection to your deepest hopes and fears. And understanding this, truly understanding this, can transform not just how you save, but how you rest, knowing that every financial choice you make is perfectly human. The pleasure of saving. Let's talk about something wonderful happening in your brain right now, even as you rest. Deep within the ancient structures of your mind, in a region called the reward system, something magical occurs when you save money. It's the same system that lights up when you taste something delicious, when you hear a song you love, when you accomplish something that matters. Saving triggers dopamine in the brain's reward system. Dopamine, that beautiful neurotransmitter, flooding gently through your neural pathways, not because you're spending, not because you're consuming, but because you're setting something aside, because you're choosing your future self. Your brain actually rewards you, physically, chemically, beautifully, for the act of saving. Imagine that for a moment. Every time you transfer money into savings, every time you choose not to make an impulse purchase, every time you set aside even a small amount, your brain is literally celebrating. It's releasing the same chemical that makes you feel good, the same one that reinforces habits we love. This isn't willpower. This isn't discipline in the harsh, cold sense we usually imagine. This is your brain, in its ancient wisdom, recognizing that you're taking care of yourself, that you're building safety, that you're honoring the tomorrow that hasn't arrived yet. And you can rest in this knowledge. Your desire to save, your instinct to set things aside for later, isn't fighting against your nature. It's working with something deeply wired into who you are. You don't have to force it. You just have to notice it and let it grow. The gift of watching things grow. There's something almost meditative about watching savings grow. Perhaps you've experienced this, checking your account and seeing the number a little higher than before. Not dramatically higher, perhaps, just growing. Like a plant you've been tending, like seasons slowly turning. Tracking savings growth reinforces the habit. Your brain loves patterns. It loves seeing progress, however small. When you track your savings, when you watch that number climb, even incrementally, you're not just observing data, you're creating a feedback loop. You're showing your mind, look, the thing we did worked. Look how we're moving forward. Look how we're building something. This is why people who check their savings regularly, mindfully, not anxiously, tend to save more. Not because checking changes anything magical about the money itself, but because the act of witnessing creates reinforcement. Your brain sees the evidence of your choices, and it wants to make more choices like that. Think of it like walking a path through a forest. The first time, you push through undergrowth, uncertain of the way. But each time you walk that path, it becomes clearer, easier, more natural. Tracking your savings is like that. Each time you look and see growth, you're wearing down a neural pathway that says, this is what we do. This is who we are. We are someone who saves. And tonight, as you rest, know that every small act of attention you've paid to your saving, every time you've noticed your progress, has been quietly training your brain, teaching it, loving it into better patterns. You don't have to do anything about this right now. Just rest in knowing it's happening, even now, even as you drift. The power of beginning. There's a curious phenomenon that psychologists have discovered, something that explains why starting is often the hardest part, and yet also the most powerful part of any savings journey. The endowed progress effect motivates continued saving. Here's what this means. When you feel like you've already made some progress toward a goal, even if that progress was given to you, even if it's small, you're far more likely to continue. Your brain looks at that initial progress and thinks, well, we've already started. We're already on our way. It would be a shame to stop now. This is why savings accounts that start with even a tiny amount, even $5, perform better than accounts that start at zero. It's not logical. $5 doesn't mathematically make saving easier, but psychologically, emotionally, that $5 transforms everything. Because it means you're no longer at the beginning, you're already in motion. You've been endowed with progress. You've been gifted a start. Think about how gentle this is, how kind to yourself you can be with this knowledge. You don't need to save a fortune to begin. You don't need to wait until you have enough to begin. The moment you put aside anything at all, $1, $5, $10, you've crossed the threshold. You're no longer someone thinking about saving. You're someone who saves, someone who has already begun. And that identity, that small but profound shift, changes everything that comes after. Let yourself feel that tonight. If you've saved anything at all, you've already started. You're already on the path. And if you haven't yet, know that the moment you do, however small that moment is, you'll have given yourself the gift of progress. And progress, even tiny progress, is magnetic. It pulls you forward. The stranger in the mirror. Now we come to something more challenging, but no less important to understand. And understanding it, truly grasping it, can bring not just better saving habits, but genuine compassion for yourself. Difficulty identifying with the future self. Your future self, the person you'll be in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. That person feels abstract, distant, almost like a stranger. And this isn't a failing. This is simply how human minds work. We are deeply, powerfully rooted in the present moment. The now is vivid and real. You can touch it, you can feel it. But the future is distant, foggy, uncertain. And there are forces, natural, human forces, that pull us toward the bright now and away from the misty later. These aren't villains, really. They're just parts of being human, but it helps to name them, to see them, to recognize their voices when they whisper in your mind. The tyranny of now. Let's start with perhaps the most powerful force of all, the one that shapes nearly every financial choice we make, often without us even realizing it. Present bias favors immediate spending. Your brain, this beautiful, ancient instrument, has a bias. Not a moral failing, a bias, a tilt, a leaning. And that tilt is always toward the present moment, toward now. Imagine holding two photographs. One is crystal clear, full of color and detail and life. You can see every element perfectly. The other is faded, blurry, like it's been left in the sun too long. Which one feels more real? Which one captures your attention? The clear one, of course, and that's exactly how your brain sees time. The present is the clear photograph, vivid, real, demanding attention. The future is the faded one, distant, abstract, easy to overlook. So when you're standing in a store or scrolling through a website and something catches your eye, your brain lights up with present moment pleasure. You can imagine having it now, wearing it now, using it now. That joy is real and immediate and tangible. But the future benefit of saving that money, the retirement that's decades away, the emergency fund that you might never need, those feel theoretical, pale, unreal compared to the brightness of now. This isn't weakness. This is how human brains work. We evolved to respond to immediate threats and immediate opportunities. The tiger in the bush right now, the fruit on the tree right now. For thousands of years, there was no such thing as retirement planning. There was only survive this day, find food this day, stay safe this moment. And so your bias toward the present, it's ancient wisdom. It's just wisdom that doesn't always serve you. And once you know the terrain, once you can see the obstacles clearly, you can find the path around them, through them, over them. Not through force, but through understanding, through compassion, through designing a life that works with your nature, not against it. Time and temptation, they pull at us all. Every human who's ever lived has felt these forces. You're not alone in the struggle. You're part of the oldest human story there is, the story of wanting now and needing later, of pleasure and security, of the bright present and the misty future. And you're learning to navigate that story, slowly, imperfectly, beautifully, learning to be human in all its complexity, learning to honor both the you that exists now and the you that's coming. Breathe and rest and forgive yourself for every time you've chosen now over later. Those weren't mistakes. Those were just moments of being human. And there will be more moments tomorrow and the next day and the next. More chances, more choices, more opportunities to try again. You're doing better than you think. Even understanding these forces, even seeing them clearly, that's already progress, already growth, already change beginning. Rest now. Let it all go. Tomorrow is another day, another chance, another moment to work with yourself instead of against yourself. Breathe deeply and settle even further into rest. We've traveled through the bright pull of the present moment, and now we turn to something even more subtle, even more hidden. We're going to explore the invisible architecture of your mind, the quiet patterns of thinking that happen so automatically, so naturally, that you don't even notice them. Mental shortcuts that usually serve you well, but sometimes, when it comes to saving, lead you gently astray. These are called cognitive biases, not because your mind is broken, but because your mind is efficient. It takes shortcuts, makes assumptions, uses rules of thumb that work most of the time, but not always, not in every situation. And understanding these biases, seeing them clearly, is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see what was always there. In seeing, that's the first step to navigating differently. The pain of letting go. Let's begin with perhaps the most powerful bias of all, one that shapes almost every financial decision you make, often without you realizing it. Loss aversion makes saving feel painful. Here's a strange truth about the human mind. Losing something, hurts more than gaining the same thing feels good. Twice as much, actually. If you lose $20, the pain of that loss is about twice as strong as the pleasure you'd feel from finding $20. Think about that for a moment. The same amount of money, $20, but losing it feels so much worse than gaining it feels good. Your brain is wired, deeply, profoundly wired, to fear loss more than it craves gain. This made sense in the ancient world. Losing food when you're barely surviving, that could kill you. Gaining extra food, nice, but not life or death. So your ancestors who felt loss acutely, who protected what they had fiercely, they survived. And you carry their cautious, loss-fearing minds. But here's how this affects saving. When you save money, when you transfer it from checking to savings, your brain experiences it as loss. You're losing access to that money now. You're losing the ability to spend it. You're losing freedom and possibility and choice. It doesn't matter that you still own the money. It doesn't matter that it's actually safer in savings. It doesn't matter that you're gaining future security. In the moment of saving, your loss-averse brain feels pain, the pain of letting go. And pain, we avoid pain, naturally, instinctively. So we avoid saving, not because we're irrational, but because saving genuinely hurts. It triggers the loss aversion system. It feels like sacrifice, like taking something away from yourself. The trick is to reframe it, not as losing money from your spending, but as gaining money in your savings, not as sacrifice, but as transfer. You're not losing anything. You're just moving it, keeping it safe. Keeping it for yourself, just yourself at a different time. Tonight, as you rest, let this reframing sink in. Saving isn't loss. Saving is care. Saving is keeping. Saving is holding onto something precious so that future you, who is still you, can have it when they need it. The pain you feel, it's real, but it's not telling you the truth. It's an ancient alarm system sounding for the wrong reason. You're not losing anything. You're just keeping it safe. The ghosts of actions taken. Now let's talk about regret, that painful emotion, that looking back and wishing you'd chosen differently. Regret shapes our decisions more than we realize, and it shapes them in surprising ways. Regret from action exceeds regret from inaction. Here's the strange pattern. When you do something and it goes wrong, you regret it intensely. You think, if only I hadn't, if only I'd left well enough alone, if only I'd stayed put. But when you don't do something and things go wrong, the regret is softer, vaguer, less painful somehow. You think, oh well, maybe I should have, but maybe not. Who knows what would have happened? This is why people stay in bad situations, bad jobs, bad investments, bad savings plans, because changing, taking action, that comes with the risk of action regret, the sharp, specific, painful regret of, I did this and it went wrong, and it's my fault. But staying, doing nothing, that might also go wrong. But if it does, the regret is softer, easier to rationalize. It's not really your fault if you didn't do anything, right? You just let things continue. That's different from actively making a mistake. Except it's not different. Not really. Choosing to stay is still a choice. Choosing not to change your saving strategy is still a choice about your saving strategy. Inaction isn't neutral. It's just quieter. But this bias keeps people trapped. It keeps them in low-interest savings accounts because switching feels risky. It keeps them from starting to invest because what if they lose money? Better to do nothing and at least avoid the sharp pain of action regret. Here's the freedom. Every choice you've ever made, you made with the information you had at the time, with the understanding you had then, with the person you were then. And that person, they did their best. But you're not that person anymore. You know more now. You understand more now. And it's not betraying your past self to make a different choice now. It's honoring your current self. It's saying, I've learned, I've grown, and now I'm choosing differently. No one makes perfect financial choices. No one. Not the experts, not the gurus, not the people who seem to have it all figured out. Everyone has investments that underperform. Everyone has strategies that don't work out. Everyone makes choices they later wish they hadn't made. The difference between people who thrive financially and people who don't isn't that the first group never makes mistakes. It's that they change course when they realize something isn't working. They don't let regret aversion trap them. They don't let ego keep them stuck. Rest in this truth tonight. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to admit something isn't working. You are allowed to make a different choice without it meaning your past choice was foolish. You were learning. You're still learning. And learning means growing beyond what you knew before. The comfort of bad choices. Let's go deeper into regret, because regret doesn't just affect whether we act or not. It affects which actions we take. Regret aversion sustains poor investment decisions. You've made a financial choice. Maybe you invested in something. Maybe you chose a particular saving strategy. And it's not working well. You can see that. The returns are low. The fees are high. The account is underperforming. But you don't change it. Because changing it, admitting it was wrong, that means facing regret. That means acknowledging you made a mistake. And avoiding that feeling, avoiding that admission, it's so powerful that you'll stay in a bad situation just to avoid that feeling. This is regret aversion. The fear of regret becomes so strong that it keeps you locked in place, keeps you in investments that aren't serving you, keeps you in savings plans that aren't optimal. Because moving, changing, that requires admitting the first choice wasn't right. And our egos, they resist that. They want to believe we make good choices, that we're smart, that we knew what we were doing. Admitting we were wrong, that we need to change course, that hurts. So we stay. We tell ourselves stories. Maybe it'll turn around. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Maybe everyone else is wrong and I'm right. But staying in a bad situation out of pride, out of fear of regret, that's just compounding the mistake. It's choosing to lose more just to avoid admitting you've already lost something. Here's the freedom. Every choice you've ever made, you made with the information you had at the time, with the understanding you had then, with the person you were then. And that person, they did their best. But you're not that person anymore. You know more now. You understand more now. And it's not betraying your past self to make a different choice now. It's honoring your current self. It's saying, I've learned, I've grown, and now I'm choosing differently. No one makes perfect financial choices. No one. Not the experts, not the gurus, not the people who seem to have it all figured out. Everyone has investments that
The future that never arrives. Overconfidence underestimates future needs. You think about retirement, about the future, about the life you'll need to fund years from now. And in your mind, you don't need that much. You'll downsize, you'll spend less, you'll be fine with a modest amount. This is overconfidence talking, the belief that you're special, that you're different, that you'll need less than others, that you'll be more disciplined, more frugal, more adaptable than you actually will be. But here's the truth. Future you will probably want and need similar things to present you. Maybe more, not less. Healthcare gets expensive. Bodies age. Comfort becomes more important, not less. The Spartan lifestyle you imagine, it's easier to imagine than to live. Overconfidence tells you that you're better at sacrifice than you actually are, that you'll manage on less than others need, that somehow, through sheer force of will or cleverness or adaptability, you'll need smaller reserves than the data suggests. But the data doesn't lie. Most people need more than they thought they would. Most retirements cost more than planned. Most futures require more resources than younger selves imagined. Overconfidence feels good now. It makes saving seem less urgent, less necessary. It tells you you're smart, you're resourceful, you'll figure it out with less. But it's lying to you, gently, kindly, in a voice that sounds like self-belief, but it's still lying. The wisdom is to trust the data more than your confidence, to believe that you're human, like everyone else, that your future needs will be real needs, expensive needs, not theoretical ones that clever thinking can reduce. Plan for reality, not for the streamlined, optimized, perfectly disciplined version of yourself that exists only in imagination. The discipline that doesn't come. Overestimating budgeting discipline. You create a budget, a beautiful, detailed budget, and in that moment of creation, you're absolutely certain you'll follow it. You feel the commitment, the determination, the discipline rising up in you. This month will be different. This time, you'll stick to it. You're sure of it. You can feel it. But then life happens. The discipline you felt so certain of, it wavers, crumbles, disappears under the weight of stress and temptation and inconvenience. And the budget, that perfect budget, it sits ignored while you spend the way you always have. This is overestimating budgeting discipline, the gap between how disciplined you believe you'll be and how disciplined you actually are, between the person you imagine yourself becoming and the person you continue to be. It's not that you're weak, it's that you're human. Discipline is harder than it looks from a distance, much harder. The you who makes the budget, rested, optimistic, full of resolve, that's not the you who has to follow the budget when you're tired, stressed, tempted, and surrounded by reasons to break it. Future you will face challenges present you isn't imagining, will be tired in ways present you hasn't anticipated, will encounter temptations present you hasn't accounted for. And so the discipline you're certain you'll have, it doesn't materialize, or it does for a while and then fades, and you're left wondering why you can't just do what you know you should do. The answer is because you're not a machine. You're a human with limited willpower and unlimited pressures, and overestimating your discipline sets you up for failure, sets you up to make plans that depend on a version of yourself that doesn't actually exist. Better to plan for the discipline you actually have, not the discipline you wish you had. Build systems that work with your real level of self-control. Automate what you can. Remove temptations. Make the right choice the easy choice. Stop trying to become more disciplined. Start designing a life that requires less discipline. That's not giving up. That's being wise. That's working with yourself instead of against yourself. The spending that feels justified. Optimism bias fuels extravagant spending. Something wonderful happens. You get a raise, a bonus, a new job, and suddenly the future looks bright. You feel successful, abundant, and that feeling, it translates into spending. You deserve to celebrate. You deserve nice things. You've worked hard, and now you can finally afford them. The optimism about your financial future, it opens your wallet in the present. This is optimism bias fueling spending. The belief that because things are good now, they'll stay good. That because you have more money now, you'll have more forever. That this is a permanent change, not a temporary windfall. So you upgrade your lifestyle. Nicer apartment, better car, more expensive habits. And it all feels justified because the future is bright, because you're doing well, because optimism says you can afford this. But optimism is a poor financial advisor. It doesn't account for job loss, for market downturns, for unexpected expenses, for the dozens of ways life can change. It only sees the bright possibility, the continued success, the upward trajectory. And so you spend based on optimism, and then reality arrives. The raise doesn't feel as big after taxes. The bonus doesn't come next year. The new job has hidden costs, and the lifestyle you upgraded to, Now you're trapped in it, locked into higher expenses that seemed so reasonable when optimism was painting the picture. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's driven by optimism bias, the belief that good times will continue, that you don't need to be as careful anymore, that you've reached a new level and can stay there forever. But life is variable, up and down, changing, and the lifestyle you build should account for the downs, not just celebrate the ups. When good things happen financially, the wise response isn't to spend more, it's to save more, to build a buffer, to prepare for the variability that's coming, because it is coming. Optimism can't prevent it. Let this settle tonight. Your optimism about the future, it's beautiful, but don't let it justify spending in the present. Let it justify saving instead. Let it say, because good things are happening, I can build security, I can prepare, I can create abundance that lasts, not just abundance that feels good right now. The costs that blindside. Underestimating retirement health costs. You imagine retirement, the freedom, the leisure, the life you'll finally live, and you think about the costs: housing, food, travel maybe, daily expenses. But there's a cost you're probably not imagining clearly: healthcare. The reality of bodies aging, of systems failing, of needing care and treatment and support. This is one of the most common and most dangerous forms of optimism, the belief that you'll stay healthy, that you'll be one of the lucky ones, that healthcare costs won't apply to you the way healthcare applies to others. But they will. Almost certainly they will. Bodies age, all bodies, healthy ones and unhealthy ones, careful ones and careless ones. And when they age, they need care, expensive care. The average person will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on health care in retirement, not for catastrophic illness, just from normal aging, medications, doctor visits, tests, procedures, long-term care if it's needed. It adds up, relentlessly, inevitably. But when people plan for retirement, they often budget for everything except this. They account for their mortgage, but not their medical expenses. They plan for vacations, but not for nursing care. They save for daily life, but not for the health care that will consume a massive portion of their resources. This isn't pessimism. This is realism. This is looking at what actually happens to people who retire, what they actually need, what actually costs them their security. And the people who underestimate these costs, they run out of money, they deplete their savings, they become burdens on their families, not because they were foolish, but because they were optimistic, because they believed their future would be healthier than statistics suggest it will be. You need to plan for healthcare, seriously plan, not just hope you'll be lucky, not just assume you'll be healthy, but actually account for the reality of aging bodies and expensive care. This doesn't mean living in fear. It means living in preparedness. It means honoring the truth that bodies fail, that care costs, that optimism about your health, while beautiful, won't pay medical bills. The forever tomorrow. Illusory optimism delays saving. You know you should save. You want to save. You fully intend to save. Just not yet. Not today. Soon. When things settle down. When you earn more. When the timing is right. Because right now you need this money. Right now there are other priorities. Right now saving feels impossible. But later you'll be ready. Later circumstances will be better. Later saving will be easy. This is illusory optimism, the belief that the future will be fundamentally different from the present, that somehow, magically, things that are hard now will be easy then, that obstacles present now will vanish then, that the you of tomorrow will have capabilities and circumstances the you of today lacks. But tomorrow is just today wearing a mask. Tomorrow you'll have the same pressures, the same limitations, the same temptations. Different details perhaps, but the same basic challenges. If saving is hard today, it will probably be hard tomorrow. If money is tight today, it will probably be tight tomorrow. Unless you change something, unless you act. But illusory, the weight that paralyzes. Shame immobilizes saving action. You know your financial situation isn't good. You know you should be doing something about it. You know there are steps you could take, choices you could make, actions available to you. But you don't take them. You can't, because looking at your finances, really looking, means facing how bad things are, means confronting choices you've made, means admitting you're not where you should be. And that admission, it brings shame, heavy, crushing shame, the feeling that you failed, that you're behind, that you're not measuring up, that if anyone knew the truth, they'd judge you, look down on you, think less of you. So you avoid. You don't look at your bank balance. You don't open the bills. You don't calculate how much you owe, because looking means feeling the shame, and the shame is unbearable. Shame is different from guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. Guilt motivates change. Shame paralyzes. Guilt says, fix this. Shame says, hide. And when you're in shame about your finances, you can't save. You can't even begin, because saving requires acknowledging where you are, requires looking at the numbers, requires facing the reality you've been avoiding. Shame keeps you frozen, keeps you in denial, keeps you making the same choices, because making different choices would mean admitting you need to change. And admitting you need to change means admitting something's wrong. And admitting something's wrong brings the shame rushing back. The way out of shame is through it, not around it, not by avoiding it, but by facing it with compassion, by looking at your financial situation and saying, yes, this is hard. Yes, I've made mistakes. Yes, I'm struggling. And that's human. That's normal. That doesn't make me worthless. The opposite of shame isn't pride. It's self-compassion. It's the understanding that everyone struggles. Everyone makes financial mistakes. Everyone has things they wish they'd done differently. You're not alone in this. You're not uniquely broken. You're just human, imperfect, learning, and that's okay. Tonight, if you carry financial shame, let yourself feel it. Don't push it away. Don't avoid it. Just acknowledge, I feel ashamed. And then, gently, remind yourself, I'm human. I'm doing my best. I'm allowed to struggle. I'm allowed to be imperfect. Shame loses its power when you stop running from it, when you face it with kindness, when you refuse to let it define you. The fear of knowing. Shame prevents seeking savings advice. You need help. You know you need help. There are people who could guide you, advisors who could help you create a plan, friends who could offer support. But you don't ask. You can't, because asking means revealing your situation, means admitting you don't know what you're doing, means exposing the mess you've been hiding. This is shame preventing you from seeking help, from getting the very support that could change everything. Because shame says, if they knew the truth, they'd judge you. They'd think you're irresponsible, foolish, incapable. So you stay alone, struggling silently, making it up as you go, getting advice from random internet articles instead of actual experts, because random internet articles, they don't know your specific situation. They can't judge you personally. But here's what shame doesn't tell you. Financial advisors see struggling people every day, all day. That's their job. They're not shocked by debt. They're not horrified by lack of savings. They've seen it all, many times, in people from every background, every income level, every age. Your situation, it's not special. It's not uniquely shameful. It's just a situation, one that can be assessed, addressed, improved. And the friends who would judge you for struggling, they're probably struggling too. They're probably also hiding their financial reality, also pretending everything's fine, also carrying shame they don't talk about. Financial struggle is nearly universal, but we all pretend we're the only ones. We all hide. We all perform success while privately worrying. And that performance, it keeps us isolated, keeps us from getting help, keeps us trapped in shame. What if you broke the silence? What if you admitted you're struggling? What if you asked for help? You might find that people are kinder than you feared, more understanding, more relieved to hear someone else admit what they're feeling too. Shame grows in darkness, in silence, in isolation. It shrinks when exposed to light, to honest conversation, to shared humanity. You deserve help. You deserve guidance. You deserve support. And getting that help doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It makes you brave. It makes you someone who chooses growth over hiding. Let yourself imagine asking for help, reaching out, admitting you need support, and notice, does the world end or does it open up? Does shame win or does courage? The stories we tell ourselves. Confirmation bias protects harmful beliefs. You have beliefs about yourself and money, beliefs you might not even fully articulate. Beliefs like, I'm bad with money, I'll never be able to save, I'm not the kind of person who's financially successful, money just slips through my fingers. And here's the insidious part. These beliefs, they shape what you notice, what you remember, what you believe about your own behavior. This is confirmation bias, the tendency to notice evidence that confirms what you already believe and ignore evidence that contradicts it. You believe you're bad with money? You'll remember every financial mistake, every impulse purchase, every time you overspent. Those memories will be vivid, clear, proof that you're right about yourself. But the times you made good choices, the times you resisted temptation, the times you did save something, those you'll forget, dismiss, explain away as flukes, as not counting, as exceptions that don't matter. Confirmation bias protects your harmful beliefs, keeps them intact, keeps them feeling true, even when they're not, even when there's plenty of evidence against them. And these beliefs, they become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe you're bad with money, you won't try to save, because why try? You already know you'll fail. You already know you're not capable. So you don't try, and then you don't save. And that becomes more evidence, more proof, more confirmation that you were right all along. But what if you're wrong? What if these beliefs are just stories? Stories you've been telling yourself so long that they feel like facts. Stories that confirmation bias has been protecting and reinforcing, but that aren't actually true. What if you're not bad with money? What if you've never learned? What if past failures were just learning experiences? What if you're actually capable, you just haven't fully stepped into that capability yet? Tonight, let yourself question your beliefs about money, about yourself, about what you're capable of. Are these beliefs serving you? Are they true? Or are they just familiar, comfortable in their awfulness, protected by confirmation bias that only shows you what confirms them? What would happen if you believed something different? If you told yourself a different story, if you looked for evidence of capability instead of evidence of failure, you might be surprised. You might find that you're more capable than you thought, more disciplined than you believed, more able to change than you feared. The story you tell about yourself, It shapes what's possible. Choose your story wisely. Choose one that opens doors instead of closing them. These are the silent blockers: shame that immobilizes, shame that prevents seeking help, confirmation bias that protects harmful beliefs, the emotional barriers that keep you stuck, not through logic, but through feeling. And feelings are powerful, more powerful than logic, more powerful than knowledge, more powerful than good intentions. Feelings drive behavior. Feelings keep you trapped or set you free. So we can't ignore feelings. We can't just think our way past them. We have to feel them, face them, honor them, and then gently, compassionately work with them. Shame needs compassion. It needs to be seen and acknowledged and met with kindness, not pushed away, not avoided, but held gently until it transforms into something softer, something that allows movement. Fear needs to be faced, needs to discover that the thing you're afraid of, the judgment, the failure, the exposure, it's not as terrible as imagined, that on the other side of fear is freedom. And harmful beliefs need to be questioned, challenged, tested against reality instead of protected by confirmation bias, so that new beliefs, truer beliefs, can take their place. This work, it's not easy, it's not comfortable, it's the hardest work of all, harder than budgeting, harder than investing, harder than any practical financial skill. But it's the most important.
Until checking in becomes habit, until adjusting becomes normal, until you've built new defaults, better defaults that serve you even when you're not actively thinking about them. Breathe deeply now. Rest in this understanding. Inertia is powerful, but you're not helpless against it. You can see it, name it, work with it, and when necessary, break it. The defaults can be changed. The status quo can be updated. The familiar can expand to include new methods. The anchors can be lifted. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually, deliberately, with awareness and intention. One choice at a time, one scheduled review at a time, one moment of breaking inertia at a time. And over time, those moments accumulate. Those small changes compound. Those breaks from inertia reshape your entire financial trajectory. You're not a victim of your defaults. You're not trapped by your past choices. You're not forever bound by the anchors that were set years ago. You're just temporarily at rest, and rest is not permanent. Motion is always possible. It just requires seeing clearly, choosing deliberately, and pushing gently but firmly against the inertia that wants to keep everything as it is. Rest now. Let these truths settle. The inertia is real, but so is your capacity to overcome it. The defaults are powerful, but so is your ability to change them. You're not stuck. You're just resting. And when you're ready, you can move. until checking in becomes habit, until adjusting becomes normal, until you've built new defaults, better defaults that serve you even when you're not actively thinking about them. Breathe deeply now. Rest in this understanding. Inertia is powerful, but you're not helpless against it. You can see it, name it, work with it, and when necessary, break it. The defaults can be changed. The status quo can be updated. The familiar can expand to include new methods. The anchors can be lifted. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually, deliberately, with awareness and intention, one choice at a time, one scheduled review at a time, one moment of breaking inertia at a time. And over time, those moments accumulate. Those small changes compound. Those breaks from inertia reshape your entire financial trajectory. You're not a victim of your defaults. You're not trapped by your past choices. You're not forever bound by the anchors that were set years ago. You're just temporarily at rest. And rest is not permanent. Motion is always possible. It just requires seeing clearly, choosing deliberately, and pushing gently but firmly against the inertia that wants to keep everything as it is. Rest now. Let these truths settle. The inertia is real, but so is your capacity to overcome it. The defaults are powerful, but so is your ability to change them. You're not stuck. You're just resting. And when you're ready, you can move.